Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wildin' in the stand. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gon' be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds, the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans by fans. Calvin, it's official. It's draft day. It's Thursday, June 23rd. The NBA draft is here. How excited are you?
Oh, I'm very excited. This is every Kings fan's favorite and least favorite day of the year, right? At the same time.
Definitely is. Definitely is. We're excited. We got a bunch of fun stuff to cover today. I got people talking in my ear because I'm trying to listen to this draft while we're talking here. But Calvin, I have a few things to do real quick. You want to start off here?
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It is, as Barry mentioned, draft day. And the Kings, for as futile as they've been as a franchise, they've been at the forefront of the national media coverage for this draft in particular because of how unknown what their scenario is here and how coveted the rest of the league has this number 4 pick. I think the Kings are probably the number 1 team to watch here as we head into the draft, which is just under an hour away. Who do you guys think the Kings are going to take at number 4? Do you think that the Kings will sit at number 4, or are they moving out of that spot? Let us know in the chat here as we get ready to go. What's up, everybody? What's up, Gothan, Lane, Stephen Rose in the house, Progressive G, Dennis. Yeah, who we getting? That's everybody's question. Vinny Squatch is not in the house, unfortunately, Gotham, but I will let him know that you say what's up. Oh, Barry's cracking his beer. I guess I'm going to do the same. Ivy at number 4. It does seem more and more likely that is what the Kings are going to do. But I think a lot of it just depends on what other deals they're going to be able to pull off. John Collins, the rumors are really heating up with him. But we've also seen a couple other teams engage in potential talks for John Collins. The San Antonio Spurs are one of those teams that's moving up the ranks fast. The Kings are still considered the front runners to land Collins, but DeJounte Murray becoming available has all of a sudden maybe thrown a kink in that plan if you're Sacramento.
Definitely. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Sorry, I just had a couple things I had to handle here. Calvin and I are live on Royal Rebounds until about the 10th or 11th pick. Then we're going to be switching over to Basketball at the Bar, which is our full NBA channel. If you have not subscribed to that channel, make sure you check it out. It's linked. If you just go to Royal Rebounds, you'll see Basketball at the Bar there. We're also giving away a $250 Fanatics gift card, so make sure you guys enter in on that. But we're going to be doing the first 10 picks on this channel. Then we'll be transferring over and covering the rest of the NBA draft. We'll be here all day having fun, drinking beers, and hanging out. Calvin, I don't know about you, but the NBA draft is one of my favorite days in the NBA.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's just so much. I think that it's funny how much stuff gets talked about that never actually happens. You know, people always tend to overinflate things, and obviously there's so many rumors swirling around that you have to talk about all this stuff, but just to keep in mind that probably 70 to 80% of everything you're hearing probably won't happen.
Yeah, maybe even more.
Yeah.
Maybe even more of that. So a couple things I wanted to touch on. You know, we're all interested in the draft. Yes, we want to know what the Kings are going to do and all that stuff. We're going to be here talking about the Kings for plenty of time. So before we jump into that, there's just a few things I want to touch on that are important, that are in the news. First off, Bradley Beal opts out. I know many people expected this, as maybe he was opting out to sign a longer-term deal and remain with the Wizards. But currently he's a free agent. He's not under contract for any team in the NBA. He can sign, once free agency starts, wherever he wants. But Calvin, what do you think about this?
Well, I think it's expected. Everything that you've heard from Bradley Beal, one of the last comments he made was his decision on where he plays next year is going to be based on winning. If you're the Wizards, that probably doesn't sound good to you because they haven't done a whole lot of winning lately. But at the same time, everything you hear and read from around the league signals that he still is intending to re-sign with the Wizards, as he has consistently said throughout the course of his entire career. So I've been one of those people that has not expected throughout this whole season process to see Bradley Beal with another team. It could very well happen, but it's definitely a big question mark right now. And him opting out, I think, is a big signal to a lot of other teams around the league that are really trying to go after him. But unfortunately, because he's now officially a free agent, a lot of other teams are going to lose out on an opportunity to get him because maybe their only shot was through a sign and trade. They're not going to be able to sign him to a max deal just by itself.
Yeah. I think it's news, but not really anything going on right now until we hear more from Bradley Beal, until we hear more from the Wizards and what their plans are this offseason. We don't really know. We just know that Beal's a free agent. He can sign with whoever he wants, but he's remained with the Wizards on multiple occasions when he had chances to leave, and he says he still wants to remain with that team. I'm just catching up here on the chat. I want to say what's up to Dennis, Guy, Sac Kings 005, Gothan, Lane. Yes, we are late. I was filling up the cooler. Progressive G, welcome in everybody. Jesus Christ, my King, Steven, Patrick, Jeff the Lefty, Sass, thank you guys. Matthew, wow, we're seeing a lot of people here. Mick Crafts, awesome. Glad to see you guys here. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you are excited for the draft. We're just a little under an hour away, and I think, Calvin, we're going to see some fireworks. I'm really excited. The next thing I kind of wanted to touch on here, what's up, Ivan? Good to see you, is let's talk about Kenny Atkinson, because I know he was many Kings fans' favorite to land the Kings coaching job.
He was my favorite.
Then we heard either he wasn't willing to interview with the Kings or the Kings weren't interviewing him. Not really sure what was happening there. Then he apparently signs a deal to become the next head coach of the Charlotte Hornets, which I was like, good news for the Hornets. They got a great coach. Now he's not their head coach, Calvin. What the hell is going on here?
That's a good question. I don't know what's going on other than, just from an outsider's perspective, it does seem like a better, maybe less money and you're not the head coach, but I think most coaches in the league would rather be with the Golden State Warriors organization than the Charlotte Hornets organization right now.
Yep.
Unless you're Mike Brown, who didn't go to Charlotte, though. Yeah. He went to Sacramento instead. But, according to Kenny Atkinson, or what people have said from his camp, he just felt like staying in Golden State was the better decision, the better situation for him ultimately at this time. I think it's a big red flag for Charlotte. And if I was a player that was going to be drafted by Charlotte, who has 2 picks in the top 15 tonight at 13 and 15, I'd be a little nervous about going there just because you're not really sure what direction this organization is headed right now. They have a lot of nice young talent there.
One main guy.
Well, Miles Bridges is another really good piece right now. I mean, they have some other players that you would probably like to play with if you're, a draft prospect here that's expected to go in the lottery. But just the uncertainty with this is the only team now, aside from Utah, that doesn't have a head coach, and they've been bad for a long time. They don't play any defense there. It is troublesome.
You talking about Sacramento or are you talking about Charlotte?
I'm talking about Charlotte.
Okay. It feels so good that you're not talking about the Kings when you say that stuff, because those are all things that I've heard for the last 10 years about Sacramento.
Probably more.
I heard they might be trying to bring back Steve Clifford now or something.
Who knows? I mean, maybe they circle back to Mike D'Antoni too, who was another one of their finalists. And it's a unfortunate timing for Charlotte right ahead of the draft here.
Charlotte is the Sacramento of the East. Yeah, I wish we had a Michael Jordan type owning the Sacramento Kings. Yeah. No shade on Vivek. But yeah, interesting situation going on down in Charlotte. Something to keep your eyes on. In other news, Calvin, the Pistons finally trade Jerami Grant. We've been hearing about this for almost a year now, about where he's going to be traded. He officially is traded to the Portland Trail Blazers. I was a little confused here, Calvin, because when I first heard this trade go down, I was like, I saw it was the number 7th pick and potentially a future first or something like that for Jerami Grant. What is it now?
It is a mess of second-round picks, but the main pick in this deal is a protected, we don't know what protected yet, but a protected 2025 first-round pick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like him and Christian Wood, they just seem to be had for nothing, basically, at this point. And, I mean, a 2025 first-round pick is something, but it's 3 years from now. It's a Blazers team that's rebuilding. It's probably a protected pick. I think that Jerami Grant is probably worth more than that. Not that I would trade for him, but I think he'd be worth a little bit more.
I think how long it took, Detroit has been trying to deal Grant since the trade deadline of last season. So for how long the amount of time lapsed in between when he first maybe became available until now, steadily his value, I think, has been declining.
Yep.
Not because teams don't want him necessarily, but they're worried about the contract extension for the type of production that he's given on bad teams in his career. And, as time goes by, if somebody is available for longer and longer, the chances of you getting him for a lesser price becomes more and more great, right? So I think that the Blazers just lucked out or maximized on the fact that Grant has been available for so long, Detroit is just willing to get rid of him at this point.
Yeah, shout out to Dab Rap. Thank you for joining us, Dab. We always enjoy your presence. And yeah, we're here. We're back. There's not been a ton of King stuff to talk about. We've been covering the entire NBA on our other channel, Basketball at the Bar. We're trying to work out a schedule next season to where you guys can pretty much hang out with us almost every day between the two channels. So we'll let you guys know when we have some more information regarding that. Dabrab says the 2025 pick is the Bucks pick.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That makes it worse.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it makes it seem strange that it's protected then, right, if it's Milwaukee's pick. But I think, people are killing Detroit right now on social media for not getting the 7th pick in return for this. But you've got to keep in mind the bigger picture here. Detroit is in on a bunch of free agents right now. They're clearing cap space to potentially grab somebody like DeAndre Ayton. They're interested in somebody like Gordon Hayward as well. Detroit, I think, right now is setting themselves up to make some pretty significant moves that could boost them out of the basement of the Eastern Conference pretty quickly.
And they need some salary cap room to re-sign Marvin Bagley, right?
Yeah.
So, got to keep him.
We know he's going to break the bank, right?
Build around the piece. In other news, the Lakers officially trade their second-round pick number 35, to the Orlando Magic. Anything to see here, Cal?
It's insignificant because now the Lakers have a pick, right? And they are in that range of the second round where you can still see potentially getting somebody that helps your team right away if you hit it right. And the Lakers have drafted well in that early to mid-second round spot in recent years, guys like Kyle Kuzma, for example. So we'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, I think they gave up a second-round pick in the 2028 draft, so they didn't give up a lot for this. 35, there's still going to be some people available at 35, so good move for the Lakers. And second-round picks don't cost a lot to re-sign or to sign in the first place, so definitely a good move for them. The Kings officially trade pick number 49 to the Cavs. The Kings had 2 second-round picks. I think they have pick like 36 or something like that, 37. But
37, I think.
They trade 49 to the Cleveland Cavaliers for a guy that will probably never make it to the roster and like $2 million in cash.
We shall see.
All right. In other news, these are quick ones. Spurs are shopping DeJounte Murray. We'll see what happens there. Kyrie Irving is gaining more leverage in his contract negotiations with the Nets, whether he'll be traded. He's released a list. I think there was like 5 teams on the list. I think he had the Heat, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Mavericks,
76ers, and the Knicks.
Sixers and the Knicks. Yeah. Oh, 6 teams on that list.
Which, by the way, I find it absolutely hilarious that the Knicks are on this list.
Right, he just goes right across the river, and he's like, "Hey, what's
to
up,
another
guys?"
team that he could potentially not play for if New York decides to run it back on the. Yeah. But the Lakers make way more sense than the Knicks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, from Kyrie's perspective,
It's a championship team if he's on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wizards are apparently trying to trade for a point guard. They're determined to trade for one in today's draft. I don't know if that's going to be Malcolm Brogdon or one of these other guys, but apparently they have been very, very active in trying to add a point guard to this roster. I don't know if this has anything to deal with the Bradley Beal situation, but they need a point guard after trading Spencer Dinwiddie, right?
Yeah, well, they could potentially need a shooting guard, too, if Bradley Beal doesn't re-sign with them. But they've been linked to drafting Johnny Davis with that 10th pick pretty much throughout the whole draft process. So that could be their backup, or not backup move, but their replacement there.
Yeah, we did a off-season needs for the Washington Wizards, and it was a long video because there was a lot of needs.
Yeah.
But if you guys are interested in that, if you're Wizards fans, check out Basketball at the Bar, our other channel. We got a ton of team previews or team offseason needs, so make sure you check that out. The Clippers are shopping Luke Kennard. Anything significant here?
A guy that led the NBA in three-point percentage in today's game where they shoot a ton of threes is pretty significant. Yes, there will be plenty of teams that want him.
Sacramento?
Sure, why not? I mean, literally every team wants shooting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What are your concerns with Luke Kennard? Because the shooting's good. I don't think he's an excellent defender. There's been these guys, like he's a specialist, right?
The concern is what do you have to pay him for a guy that basically has one predominant skill? It's a very important skill, don't get me wrong.
Duncan Robinson?
Yeah, exactly. Do you want him ending up on a deal like that? Now, I don't foresee somebody offering Luke Kennard that type of money anytime soon, but it's a very give and pull type situation where he could really add, to your team in terms of outside shooting and all that stuff. But what else is he going to bring to the table?
Exactly.
Not much of a playmaker, not known for defense. He's a specialist, right?
Yep. Jesus says, I'm hoping Monty can fleece a team in the last minute and make a huge deal for us. I think there are plenty deals to be had. I don't think he needs to fleece anybody. We've heard about all these teams interested in the 4th pick. We've heard about potentially a John Collins trade for Harrison Barnes, not including the 4th pick. So I think there are deals to be had. I don't think he needs to fleece anybody. I think we could find a deal that works for both teams. Who needs Kennard when we got Sasha? Kidding. Collins and Herter for the 16th pick would be nice. And 16th pick would be nice, but costly in taking back their salary. I agree for that. Steven says, can't wait for my Rockets at 3. It's an exciting day here. In other news, the Knicks are trying to go after Donovan Mitchell. Are they trying to pair Kyrie and Donovan Mitchell together? Or what's going on?
The Knicks are trying to go after everybody. And that has been their MO or their attempt for pretty much every offseason for the last 10 off seasons, right?
Yep.
They're the New York Knicks. They feel like they deserve a chance at everybody, but a lot of other players don't. Well, they're a guy they really want. I mean, they're one of those two. The Kings at 4 and the Knicks at 11 are the two teams to really watch in terms of movement in the top, in the lottery, basically, for me.
Yep.
The Knicks are desperately trying to trade up, whether it's to 6 to get Malcolm Brogdon at Indiana or to trade with Sacramento up all the way to 4 so they can take Ivy. The question is, are they willing to give up the packages that both Indiana and Sacramento are going to want back, respectively?
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about John Collins, because apparently John Collins is available. He's being shopped to multiple teams. We've heard the Kings are interested. You and I have been advocating for a John Collins trade for probably a year and a half now. Now I'm hearing that potentially the Kings could get him without including the 4th pick. What are your thoughts on John Collins, what it'll take to get him, and what kind of impact he could have on Sacramento?
Well, in terms of impact, he could have a great one automatically, right? Like a guy that's a high flyer like that, able to stretch the floor a little bit. I think he would work well with Sabonis and Fox for those reasons. And if you're able to get him without giving up the 4th pick, that's a win in my book, even if you have to take on his salary. But the question is Atlanta willing to do that? You know, they're going to continue to shop him around. Like I said earlier, the DeJounte Murray news is now maybe troublesome a little bit for Sacramento because Atlanta maybe likes the idea of putting another big-time ball handler or playmaker alongside Trae Young. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I think the Kings are still the front runner right now to land John Collins.
Yeah, I would love to get John Collins, especially if we didn't have to give up the 4th pick. If Davion Mitchell had to be included in that, it would make it a little bit tougher for me.
Yeah.
But I think John Collins could have a huge impact on this Kings team. And we talked about the needs, right, is the 4 and the 2. If you can keep the 4th pick, take Ivy at 4, you solve the 2 position. You get John Collins, he solves the 4. Now, if you give up Harrison Barnes, you know, that you're kind of like, okay, what do I do for the 3, right? Do I start Terrence Davis at the 3?
Or DiVincenzo, maybe.
Do I start DiVincenzo? Yeah. Do I try and fill that position in free agency?
Yeah.
It gives you more questions, but I, for one, would love to have John Collins on this team. And when we're done kind of going through all these updates and everything that's in the news right now, I want to touch on what a perfect day for you would be if you're the Kings. And I will give my insights as well. And John Collins, I'll give you a hint, is on part of my list there. So keep that in mind. All right, next up, the Blazers are pursuing OG Anunoby. What do you think about this, Cal?
No surprise here, but what I'm hearing out of Toronto's camp is that they're only willing to deal him for an elite center. So that means Portland's going to have to get a 3rd team involved if they want to land him. Right now the Raptors are looking at Rudy Gobert being really, really high on their list. He's high on a bunch of teams' lists right now, but from what I'm reading, Toronto that's the goal to get back in return for Anunoby. So the Blazers might have their work cut out for them.
I mean, the Blazers are interested in everybody, as they should be. They just shipped out basically their entire roster other than Damian Lillard last season. So we'll see what happens there. That's interesting. That's interesting. I like OG a lot. I do. All right, and last up, the Golden State Warriors are trying to re-sign Gary Payton II and Kevon Looney. I saw somebody in the chat earlier mention what we thought on the Kings potentially adding a guy like Kevon Looney, and I want to touch on that. But first, Gary Payton seems to be wanting a decent amount of money, which I don't know if the Warriors are going to be able to afford. What are your thoughts on the Warriors retaining Gary Payton and Kevon Looney?
Well, my thoughts are they should do it if they can, right? Like, it makes a lot of sense for them to re-sign both those guys. They were very instrumental to them winning a trophy, the championship trophy this year.
Fred, are you at the draft?
I just don't know if it's going to actually be doable.
Yeah. Fred, are you really at the draft right now? You said you're here, or are you in Sacramento? Because Calvin and I would have loved to go to the draft.
Oh, I thought Fred told me he was at the draft party in Sacramento.
Oh, okay. I would say that's fun, too. But you and I wanted to go to New York to go to the draft.
Sure, I've always wanted to go to the draft.
We were going to do NFT NYC, Ape Fest, and the draft.
Maybe next year.
Man, he's in Sacramento. That's cool. That's cool. The draft's in Brooklyn this year.
Barclays Center.
And I don't know if any of you NFT guys are out there, but Ape Fest is right now at Pier 17 in New York. And I think Lil Wayne is performing. So definitely disappointed I missed that. But that's okay. I'll see Lil Wayne later, I guess. What are your thoughts on the Kings trying to go after a guy like Kevon Looney? Do you think he's starter potential for them? Like, would he fit with Sabonis, or is he more of like a bench guy?
I'm not so sure starting him next to Sabonis. Not so sure. I mean, people, I think like the idea of Sabonis playing on the perimeter a little bit offensively. I want him more inside, personally, so I don't necessarily like starting those two side by side. But if you're gonna potentially deal Richaun Holmes and lose out on Damian Jones in free agency, signing a guy like Kevon Looney to come off the bench would be a great saving grace there.
Yep.
It just depends on how much money you're going to have to pay to get him.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We need a starting center or power forward to pair with Sabonis. I like Kevon Looney a lot. I really do. I just don't know if he can play on a Kings team with De'Aaron Fox that doesn't shoot the three ball exceptionally well. Sabonis doesn't shoot the three ball exceptionally well. And then you have Looney out there too. You need your shooting guard and your small forward to shoot 60% from three-point range to space the floor enough for those guys. Yeah. But a backup I'd love. I just don't know.
But think about how many offensive rebounds you could potentially get with Looney and Sabonis on the floor together. That would be nice.
Especially if you're shooting below 33% from three-point range. There's a lot of opportunities. All right, so we covered kind of all the news. I'm watching the draft right now while we're on the air, so I'll let you guys know if anything breaking happens. I'm sure you guys are all watching it at home as well, unless your name is Fred and you are enjoying Sacramento and at the draft party, which I'm extremely jealous. Minor Perez, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate the super chat. That's awesome. That'll afford us maybe a beer, maybe 2 beers at happy hour. We will see. Maybe Calvin and I will go to happy hour after that or after this. Depends on what happens. I know
depends on how happy we are with the Kings draft, right?
Yeah. On that note, Calvin, so the Kings have the 4th pick in the draft. I want to hear from you. Ideal situation today for the Kings.
Wow, that's tough.
And they got Mike Brown on NBA TV right now.
Oh, there you go. Everybody tune in. I could go a couple different ways here. I know people are still starting to become maybe more okay with, or you were already really high on drafting Jaden Ivey at 4. And there are a lot of reasons why that would not just make sense, but be a good pick for Sacramento. But for me, I would much rather see them either trade for a starting power forward like John Collins. You know, I could throw a couple other names out there, but I'm not hearing anything about those guys being available or that the Kings are in on them. Somebody like Pascal Siakam, for example. So to me, maybe the ideal scenario would be to trade for John Collins. I'm okay with them taking Ivy at 4 if they get that move or that deal done. But I still like the idea of trading down to anywhere between 5 and 7, especially if you've already added Collins.
Yep.
Gaining another top 7 draft pick, potentially another player, a role player, and still having the opportunity to draft one of these wings like Keegan Murray, Shaedon Sharpe even, or Ben Mathurin, who I'm really, really high on. He's killed it in the workouts. Detroit is now really high on him as well, apparently, Ben Mathurin. So I think if you could come away with 3 players, potentially, Collins, another role player, and one of those wings, that to me is a great day for Sacramento.
What would you be trading to pick up another pick here? Because you're talking about trading down from 4?
And that's why the Kings have leverage here. That 4th pick is so high valued for a lot of guys in the lottery and a lot of teams around the league right now. So I think it's not so much about what you would be trading if you're Sacramento. It's what other teams want to get that 4th pick.
Yeah. Okay.
Or what other teams are willing to take back for the 4th pick.
I'm going to give you a couple different scenarios for me because I've thought about this a ton. And I'm not going to lie, my first scenario, I thought that the Blazers picked up the 7th pick. So my first scenario...
Detroit picked up the 7th pick.
Sorry, yes. Detroit picked up the 7th pick from the Blazers. If that was true, I'd be trading the 4th pick for 5 and 7. And I'd be taking Keegan Murray and Shaedon Sharpe. I like Shaedon Sharpe a lot, but I feel like the only way the Kings are able to take a shot on a guy like this is if they were able to pick up another first-round pick this year because the dude hasn't played in a year. And I think he has one of the highest ceilings. He could be a superstar. He could end up being the best player in this draft. But the tough part is he hasn't played. We don't know. Like, he is some of the biggest question marks. He could be a total bust or he could be the best player. And I don't think the Kings can afford to take that gamble at pick 4. But if you're able to trade down and pick up 2 picks, I think you get a guy like Keegan Murray and Shaedon Sharpe, I think would be ideal. Now, that being said, Pistons don't have those 2 picks.
No, they do
so
not.
that's off the board. So the first thing that I'm looking at in this draft is who goes number 1 overall. If Chet Holmgren goes number 1 overall, I'm doing whatever I can to trade up to pick number 2. Because you know this already. I love Jabari Smith, and I think he will be the best player in this draft. If the Kings can pick up Jabari Smith to play the 4 for them, I think that would be absolutely huge. And I think that's a total win. Now, if that's not possible and he goes number 1, I'm okay letting Chet go number 2 to the Thunder. I'm sticking with 4. I'm trying to trade for John Collins, and I'm drafting Jaden Ivey. Now, a lot of you, if you've been watching me in the past, you're probably going to say, well, Barry, you said that Jaden Ivey wasn't on your draft board anymore after the things that he said. And I'm going to say, you're right. He wasn't. He wasn't on my draft board. But if I get John Collins and I have the 4th pick and it doesn't make sense for me to trade up or trade down, I'm taking best player available, and I think that's going to be Jaden Ivey at that point. And whether I'm trading him for somebody else or if I'm going to play him at the 2, is yet to be seen. But I think you got to take best available if you stay at pick 4. I do.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's going to be interesting to see who best available is considered also for Sacramento, right?
Yes.
Vivek is rumored to be very, very high on Keegan Murray. That's the guy that he wants, even if they're picking at 4. The question is, what does Monty think, right?
And if you trade for John Collins.
Are we getting ourselves into that situation? We just saw it with the head coach. Vivek wanted Mark Jackson. They decided to go with somebody else. Is that going to be the same case here in the draft?
I think it will.
I hope so. I think it will too, but I hope so.
I don't think Vivek is in charge anymore. And I also want to point out, you are a big fan of Keegan Murray. So,
I am.
What have you and Vivek been talking about?
I haven't talked to Vivek at all. I would much rather talk to Monty, not this year. But yeah, I love Keegan Murray. I think that he's going to be a fantastic pro. He might not have as high a ceiling potentially as Jaden Ivey, but the guy's floor is also very, very high. This guy's going to be incredibly productive in the league.
Lane, you're staticky. Jesus says, what if Chet falls to 4, then what? That's a good question.
Then you take him, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I'd be really surprised.
Yeah, I don't think Chet falls at all. I think he goes number 1 or number 2. I'd be really, really surprised. But then there are situations that I've heard where maybe a team takes Ivy at 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Then what do you do?
Oklahoma City has been rumored to be high on Ivy as well, but you don't know until the pick is in.
Are you taking Paolo Banchero at 4?
Well, I don't think Houston passes on Banchero either.
Even if Chet's available?
Perhaps, yeah. I think they really, really like Paolo.
So if Chet doesn't go,
this is all just speculation.
I know, but I'm just saying if Chet doesn't go 1, and the Thunder like Ivy, you see Holmgren fall into 4.
I don't see any way that Holmgren falls past 2. I just don't. It's, to me, if you're Oklahoma City, you really need a big man anyway. You need a big man that can space the floor and play defense. And the top 2 picks in this draft are exactly that. So if they don't take either one of those guys, I will be very surprised.
What's up, Marcus? Good to see you here. Sass says James Ham thinks Keegan Murray is Marvin Williams 2.0.
Thinks Keegan Murray is who?
Marvin Williams 2.0.
Wow. I think he'll be better than Marvin Williams. I do. He's a more versatile defender for sure than Marvin Williams.
Yeah, Marvin Williams, man. I haven't heard that name in a long, long time. Funny thing about Marvin Williams is I guess Marvin Williams' family are like huge gamblers. Like they love to gamble. So when I worked at a casino in Petaluma, one of the dealers that I worked with was like, yeah, I used to be a dealer up in Washington where Marvin Williams' family lives. And they were degenerate gamblers that were literally at the casino every day. Like they were the ones that were there every single day, sitting at the table, like would brush their teeth at the table, like wouldn't leave. And he said he'd see Marvin Williams every once in a while, but he'd just come in and give them money and leave and stuff like that.
That's got to be hard to watch.
It does.
Marvin Williams.
Yeah, but I haven't seen Marvin Williams or heard that name in a long time. You agree with that?
Oh, wow, Adam Morrison.
Keegan Murray, I feel like can be better than Marvin Williams.
I think he will be.
Yeah. Chet Holmgren might be Adam Morrison 2.0. I don't know if that's possible, Progressive G. Adam Morrison was pretty bad.
Anything's possible, but Chet Holmgren to me is going to have a better career than Adam Morrison.
So, Calvin, I got to ask you, who do you think is the best player in this draft?
Again, such a tough question, but I'm going to have to say Chet Holmgren is the best player in this draft, I think.
Now
I
or
really,
will be?
Both.
Okay.
Will be, we're obviously talking about potential. Right now, I think he's the best player, most complete overall player. I really do like Keegan Murray a lot. I don't know about will he be the best player in the draft, but he might end up having the most substantial career. I mean, this is a guy that could easily play 10 to 15 years for me and be a starter for most of those years. And then Shaedon Sharpe is the biggest mystery, right? Like, he has the talent and the ability to be the best player in this draft, but it's a huge, huge question mark.
Definitely. Can we talk about Kevin Durant here for a second?
Yeah.
Because, we've been talking about Kyrie Irving and all the drama that's going on with him and the Nets. I read an article today saying that Kevin Durant is closely monitoring the Kyrie Irving situation.
As he should.
Obviously, that's the guy that decided to go there with him, right?
Yeah.
Like, they teamed up and they're like, we're going to Brooklyn, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it worked out how they envisioned it working out. But do you see Kevin Durant demanding a trade if Kyrie Irving's not there next season?
I could very well see that happening. Yeah, absolutely.
And where's the best fit for KD?
Good question. Maybe Golden State.
Yeah. Trade Andrew Wiggins for him?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, I think if you're Kevin Durant, you're going to obviously look at all the championship contending teams, right? That's going to be your preferred destination. It's no secret. He's not trying to go to a rebuilding team. He wants to win. So Miami is probably a destination, maybe Boston. I think there's a few teams that you could probably link to him.
So the interesting thing about Kyrie Irving's list, right, was he listed the New York Knicks on there, right? Could you see a situation where Kyrie and KD get traded to the same team?
Seems unlikely to me. Yeah. I don't know. Because if you're the Nets, why would you do that, right? Like, that, I think, minimizes what you get back in return if you deal them both to the same team.
Yeah, and would KD even want to play with Kyrie if he's like, okay, Kyrie, I'm just going to follow you to another team. We're both on the Knicks, and then what happens after next year?
I think he still does want to play with Kyrie. I mean, Kyrie himself and Kevin Durant have still been optimistic through this whole process that the Nets were going to re-sign him, right? The Nets just are not willing to budge right now on culture and available players and all that stuff, and they want guys who are committed to the team full-time, and Kyrie Irving has not been that for them. So there's no reason for them to all of a sudden decide otherwise if you're the organization.
Crazy. Dabrab says Chet following to pick 4 is plus 2,200 in Vegas. It's not happening.
You're saying there's a chance, though.
That's money in the bank if you're Vegas and you bet on that thing, right? They're like, thank you for the money. That's great. Hey, I'm surprised, dude. On NBA TV, they're talking about the Kings right now. Kings have pick 4 and pick 37. What are they going to do? They keep talking and mentioning Jaden Ivey over and over and over again.
Well, of course. Everything they do and what other teams want to do with that pick is surrounded around Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're taking him at 4 if all things are set, like a mock draft, if everything just happens, if Smith goes 1, Holmgren goes 2, Banchero goes 3.
And I didn't trade for anybody else like John Collins?
No, you're taking Ivy?
I might be taking Murray then.
Okay. Interesting. Ivan says, but what if Keegan is better than Jaden? It's very possible. It's very possible. That's the toughest thing about the draft. And
what if Ben Mathurin is better than both of them? Like,
yeah.
You're not going to know the answer to these questions until they get into the league and start playing.
And we were talking about it yesterday where it's like, it's so interesting, right? Because there's certain guys, like, you watch them in the summer league or, like, once they get into the NBA and you're like, oh, that's the best player. Or he was by far the best player. Why did he not go higher in the draft? You have such a limited window of, like, bringing these guys in for workouts, meeting with them, looking at them. If you're a guy like Shaedon Sharpe, like I was saying, the biggest question marks around you because you didn't play ball for a year. But he could go right into summer league and all of a sudden be, like, the best player on the court. So that's the toughest part. These scouts and these guys drafting players here, what a stressful job with no sleep. Like, these guys have probably been up for weeks. Today is probably like a day of relief, right? Like, it's stressful, but then once this day is over, they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath here. We got who we wanted. All right, free agency. Here we go. Let's make it happen again. Like guys like Giannis, right? Like, you look at Giannis now, you're like, best player. He should have gone higher in the draft.
Yeah,
you look at Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, a bunch of these
Jokic
guys.
was the 41st pick in the draft, right? Like, there's always going to be situations like that where guys just completely surprise you out of nowhere.
YouTube is recommending that I insert an ad right now. Nope, but I'm not going to do that. Sorry, guys. I don't want to spam you with ads at the moment. If you're rewatching this, you can watch an ad. Ivan says Devin Booker at 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could go over the draft over and over again and talk about all these guys that fell that maybe should have gone higher. There's a lot at play here. You know, it's not just the player. It's the player's skills, it's their history, it's their health, it's how they went through interviews. And then there's team and fit and management and all that stuff. Like, I'm going to say this. This is the last time I'm going to say this. I wanted Luka Doncic. I did. But it doesn't matter. It's not up to me.
Okay, we can move on from this, I think. It's only going to bring up pain and suffering for Kings fans. Lane has a great point here. He wants Adam Sandler to be brought in as a special advisor for the Kings pick. Maybe the Kings should look to do that. I mean, and if any of you guys haven't seen the movie Hustle, by the way, it's a fantastic movie. I've already seen it twice. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. I'm a little mixed on that. I like Adam Sandler. Good movie guy.
You're actually giving a real answer to this.
Yeah. Good basketball player.
Good basketball player.
Yeah. You never seen him ball?
I've seen him play, yeah.
He's a good basketball player.
I wouldn't consider him a good basketball player.
I mean,
he can go out in a pickup game and hit some shots, yeah.
How old is he, dude?
Well, okay.
He's a good basketball player.
I have to say he's a good basketball player because he's 55 or whatever?
Yeah. He's good for 55.
I don't know if Adam Sandler, I would ever in his life have considered Adam Sandler a good basketball player.
He's good for 55.
If I'm guarding him, he's not scoring. And I'm not a great basketball player.
You're a good basketball player, and you're half his age, and you had a chance to guard him last year. He was here.
Both of us in our prime.
He was here in Maui playing pickup ball at the rec center, and you had a chance. So did I, and we missed it.
I don't know how this conversation became me and Adam Sandler playing each other, but
yeah, Lane, I'm gonna let the system hide that chat because it's definitely not true. But and I don't know why you're saying that I hate them because I think he's a good basketball player. Calvin's the one that hates him. All I'm saying is, who's the dude's name from that movie, Hustler?
Hustle?
Yeah, or Hustle?
Bo Cruz?
No, the real NBA player.
Oh, Juan Hernan-Gomez.
Yeah, exactly.
Juancho.
Exactly. I don't want the Kings drafting him, so I'm not going to let Adam make the pick.
Yeah, never mind. We're getting way too hypothetical here.
Kai Sotto. What are your thoughts on Kai Sotto?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yeah.
My thoughts are just like any second-round pick right now. There's reason to like them. There's reason to think that there's potential for them to grow into a role player, but 99% of them will not. So, I mean, the second round pick, the second round in general is just such a it's a lottery.
I don't even see him here in the mock draft.
Desperate to land the next Jokic or Draymond Green, and most teams won't. So I think that he's, probably destined for the G League right away, whether he gets picked in the draft at all or signs with a team, in the offseason after the draft.
Would you be okay with him at pick 37?
That might be a little high for me. I still had the 49th pick if they took him there, but again, it depends on how the rest of the draft plays out. Once you get to pick 37, there's so much other stuff that has happened before that it totally changes, what you're looking at.
I love this.
Look for example at the Bulls last year. Ayo Dosunmu, he was not a lottery pick projection, but a lot of people thought maybe this guy lands in the end of the first round somewhere, or at the very worst, he's gone in the first 2 to 3 picks of the second round. Bulls end up getting him at 38, and he was a very productive role player for them during the regular season last year.
Yep. I love this cooler here, Calvin. It's right underneath the table. Look at these mountains are blue. It's awesome. I think I know your answer already to this, and before I ask Calvin this question, I just need to ask you all, Kings fans, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. We got 60 people watching right now. We only got 30 likes. If you guys want the Kings to smash this draft, if you want them to trade up, trade down, if you want them to make it to the playoffs next season, you got to support your friends. You got to support your fellow Kings fans. Smash that like button. We would greatly appreciate it. Calvin, who has a better NBA career, Kai Sotto, Sharife O'Neal?
Oh, wow. I mean, that's really tough. I'll go with Kai Sotto, though. I'm not even sure Sharife is going to make a roster.
Do either of them get drafted today?
I think Kai Sotto has a better chance to get drafted than Sharife does.
Ivan says, my brother-in-law, Fidel Castro, probably not the famous one, in the Philippines, says, take Kai Sotto.
Well, yeah. Is there any Philippine resident that doesn't say take Kai Sotto?
I like Kai Sotto a lot. I like seeing guys like that pick up all this buzz, pick up all this, momentum, and people are talking about them. It's got to be so cool for a guy like that that's been kind of hidden away, and people are actually, putting thought into him, putting confidence into this guy, can be an NBA player. I love to see it. I'd love to see Kai Sotto's name called today. I don't know if 37's a little too early for him to be drafted by the Kings, but I like Kai Sotto a lot. I'm watching some highlights right now of Kai Sotto and Chet Holmgren. Man, what an interesting day here. Oh, this is Chet Holmgren playing with Steph Curry.
Oh, that video is so old. You haven't seen that?
No, I've seen it, but I'm watching it again. That's crazy, man. Shout out to the Golden State Warriors for winning the title this season. You think we'll see James Wiseman on the court next year?
I do.
That team has got
I'm not going to
so
say
many
for
young
which
players.
team, but I think we'll see him.
You think the Warriors make any moves today?
Perhaps. I don't know. I find it unlikely. I think most of their moves will be made outside of the draft, but they're obviously a team to keep an eye on because they've got a bunch of pieces that are free agents, role players for them, but guys like Otto Porter Jr. and Gary Payton and even Kevon Looney. So that if they lose out in free agency on all those guys, obviously they've got to make some roster moves just to fill out the rest of the roster. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
What's up, Drew? Drew58 says, I'd love to see us trade for Collins and still keep our 4th pick. Collins' defense can improve, and he's on the same timeline as Fox and Sabonis. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like Collins a lot. He does need to be a better defender, and but adding more talent to this roster is what's needed for sure.
Definitely.
Dabrab says, I heard the Warriors want to get rid of the first-round pick. What pick is that?
It's in the mid-20s, yeah.
Oh, they got Pat
20s.
Baldwin Jr., my guy.
I still see him as dropping tremendously.
To the second round?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If he falls to pick 37, I'm going to be screaming for the Kings to take him at 37 because I think Pat Baldwin's still going to have an amazing NBA career. Maybe not be a superstar, but, I mean, what can you expect from a guy late first, second-round pick, right?
Yeah.
And
well, late first, you can still expect big things from guys that are late first-round picks. Jimmy Butler was the very last pick of the first round.
Marcus wants a hot take for the draft. You got any hot takes?
Yeah, I'm not really. I mean, for me, all this, there's, like I said, there's a bunch of smoke and mirrors that you're just going to continue to hear through this whole process leading up to when the draft starts in like 5-10 minutes here. There are some blockbuster deals that could go down. Rudy Gobert keeps being mentioned. You know, DeAndre Ayton sign and trade, Kyrie Irving out there. I don't know if any of those things actually happened today on draft day. But
you can't do the sign and trade today.
Not the sign and trade, but just in general. But as far as the draft goes, my only hot take would be the Kings at 4. Are they going to move? Are they going to move up? Are they going to move down? We know New York really, really, really wants to move up right now. That's I think the number one team to watch for me.
Yep.
But the hot take is, do the Kings stay at 4 or trade out of it?
My hot take is I think the Kings pick up maybe 3 to 4 players today. Whether it's draft, trade, all that stuff, I think the Kings are going to be extremely active. And I think we're going to see some new faces here by the end of today. So that'll be pretty interesting. Hopefully one of them is John Collins and, one of these other guys, but we will see. Woj just tweeted, as the Orlando Magic move closer to getting on the clock, Duke's Paolo Banchero is now looming as a frontrunner to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2022 NBA draft.
Yeah, this news has kind of evolved and be coming out almost overnight here. The odds of the draft order have drastically changed. We've heard out of Orlando's camp all along that they have not been decided or settled on who they're going to take at 1 yet.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I mean, first of all, you can say all these things and still behind closed doors be like, nah, we're really going to take this guy. But doing all of this stuff creates ripple effects, right, as to what other teams do. And you're trying to maybe throw guys for a loop. Houston has been all along sitting back saying, we've got to be in the best spot of any team because this is the guy that we want, and no one is talking about him.
Yep.
He's just going to fall to us at 3. Now, if you're the Rockets, all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, do we have to move all the way to 1 so that we can take this guy? That's an advantage for the Magic.
Yeah, they'd be loving that, right? They're like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, who do you want? Oh, yeah, we're going to take him number 1. Unless you want to trade for our pick and give us another pick. It's the good old Boston Celtics move.
Exactly.
I don't know. I get what you're saying, but I think the Magic need this pick. They need a franchise changer, a number 1 overall guy. So I don't think that they should trade it. And 2, it kind of worries me a little bit. If I was a Magic fan and I'm like, my team's had a month here to think about this and they don't know who the guy is. The last time I saw this was Cleveland, and they end up whiffing in the draft. So, I mean, I'd be a little worried if I was the Orlando Magic. And if I was a Magic's fan, honestly. Banchero is minus 210. Or, sorry, 2,100 to go number 1. What if we trade up?
That's a heavy favorite.
It's all possible. What are your thoughts? Tito says Barnes for Collins straight up. Calvin, what are your thoughts regarding just a straight up deal like Barnes for Collins? If you're the Kings, you fill a position, like I said, with the 4, but then you're like, who's our 3? And there was a joke going around last year, right, between Mo Harkless and Harrison Barnes that they're the only wings on this roster.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts regarding that? Does that create a bigger problem than it solves?
Man, potentially. I tend to think that it would improve the team more than it would hurt the team, though. I mean, it was so glaringly obvious that the Kings needed a true power forward or a guy that could consistently provide them minutes and production at that position last year. To me, that's the biggest hole on this team. And yes, they're thin right now at wing. But again, like I said earlier, in my kind of dream scenario, draft day scenario for the Kings, that opens the door to maybe trade out of the 4th spot and land a guy who could, at least in the short term, start for you at small forward while you have the ability to draft another guy that could be the small forward of the future, like a Shaedon Sharpe or something like that. So I like that idea for sure. And if I could get John Collins for Barnes straight up, I would totally do that move.
And you'd take Shaedon Sharpe, number 4?
I would be torn at that point. Well, not at 4. I wouldn't take Sharpe at 4. I would probably take Murray if I'm still picking at 4.
The Kai Sotto
Ivey,
fans are real, man. I see him here in the chat. Kai Sotto.
Yeah.
Kai Sotto. Progressive G says you can probably trade Holmes for a 3.
Yeah. The Kings have a lot of options here.
Yeah.
But they better make the right moves because we all know how big of an offseason this is just for Sacramento. But other teams now in both the West and the East are setting themselves up to potentially leapfrog the Kings in a rebuild, right? Yep. All the rumors out of Detroit, I think, are really positive if you're Pistons fans. Portland has a lot of options as well with the cap flexibility. I know they have less money to spend now with Jerami Grant, but they still have the 7th pick. Oklahoma City, with all their picks, they could potentially set themselves up really, really well here. So the Kings better get this right.
Yeah, for real. They definitely need to do something here. Dabrab says, I have Smith going number 1 in a parlay. Who else do you have in that parlay? I really hope Smith doesn't go number 1. That's because I like him and I'd love the Kings to trade up. But, yeah, the Kings have a ton of different options here. And it seems like they've been kind of playing poker with a lot of these other teams. Like, yeah, we want the number 2 pick. All right, so this is what you want for it. Okay, let us think about it. And it's like, okay, John Collins, all right, let us think about it. So we could see literally like after the first pick goes off the board, we could see a ton of changes happening. The Kings could be like, okay, our guy Jabari Smith is there. We're moving up to 2 to take him. Or they could be like, no, we're getting Collins now. And then what does that mean for the 4th? Is it just set off this like effect of, okay, we got our guy here. Now we need to move this around, move this, do this, trade for this guy. I'm going to go back to my prediction of the Kings welcoming 3 to 4 new players to the roster at the end of this draft. I think 2 of those could be in a trade. So it's interesting. The parlay was 1 Smith, 2 Chet, 3 Banchero, 4 Ivey, 5 Murray. Wow. What does that pay, Dab? And what platform were you using that? You know we're sponsored by BetUs, so I can drop the link here in the chat if you want to register with BetUs. They will match your deposit up to 125%. Let me get that link for you here because BetUs is the way to go. All right, Calvin, gut feeling from you. Who's going number 1?
I will still say Jabari Smith goes number 1.
Okay.
I don't, I wouldn't say I'm like incredibly confident on that, but that's just what my gut says. That's probably what I would do too if I was Magic.
So you like Dabrab's parlay?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I like it too. I wouldn't get disappointed yet. But yeah. We're sponsored by BetUs, so if you guys ever want to bet on some sports, I'm going to post this link below in the description, and feel free to sign up. We'd greatly appreciate it. And you can bet with us, which is the best. All right, we got a lot going on here, Calvin. I got draft in my ear. I got the chat. I'm talking to you. We got a lot going on. Commissioner's at the podium, huh?
He is.
Let's see here.
It is time.
It is time. It's the NBA draft. What are you guys drinking today? Let us know down below in the chat. I'm drinking a Coors Light. I'm having fun. I'm happy. Yes, it is cold today. Not like the draft lottery. Hold on. I'm on the wrong channel here. I'm on NBA TV. I got to switch over.
Uh-oh.
I heard ESPN was having some issues earlier.
I told you, man, you got to subscribe to ESPN Plus.
Here he is. I also saw them earlier talking about lowering the draft age. Did you see that at all?
Yeah, this is something that's been discussed, I think, for a couple of years now in the league, within the league. I don't know when or if it'll happen, but
Tito's got a Fat J. That's awesome. Gotham's drinking vodka and Mountain Dew. Interesting.
How about that suit by Paolo Banchero, too? Have you seen him yet? He's in a very purple suit. He's from the Seattle area. Both his parents, or most of his family, went to University of Washington. So he says that it's basically an olive branch because a lot of people were disappointed he didn't go play at the University of Washington. So, read into that what you will. I don't think he's advertising that he wants to go to Sacramento necessarily, but it is a very nice purple suit.
Interesting. So they got Shaq number 1. They got Dwight Howard number 1. Who are they taking number 1 overall this year? They are currently on the clock.
It has begun.
If you're the Magic, you're taking Chet or Smith?
I'm happy with either one here. I'm probably taking Jabari Smith, though, if I'm the Magic, just because to me, for their needs, Holmgren and Smith both fill check a lot of boxes for them in terms of what they need. I like Smith's fit with the rest of their squad better than Holmgren, and I think Holmgren is a great fit for Oklahoma City as well.
Woj is saying it again. He expects them to take the dude out of Duke, number 1 overall.
That's wild, man. Sorry, Steven. Houston, we have a problem. Although I think Houston is going to be okay with landing either one of these guys, Holmgren or Smith, if they fall.
I mean, if you're Orlando, do you even consider taking a guy like Jaden Ivey or a guard in this draft? Because you already have, you have Mo Bamba, you got the dude Vucevic, or no, who's the guy from the Bulls?
Wendell Carter Jr.
And then you got Jonathan Isaac. You already have a pretty big team already.
Yeah, none of those guys shoot it very well, though, from the outside. So a stretch 4, a guy that can play defense, is really something that they're looking for. First of all, there's a question about whether or not Mo Bamba will be on the Magic next year. I think a lot of teams are coveting him as a mid-level free agent type guy that they could grab. So to me, there's one position that they go after here, and that's a stretch 4, which all 3 of these guys, Banchero, Smith, and Holmgren, fit that mold.
Dabrab's my guy over here. Trade to 2 if Smith falls.
We'll see. I don't the reports or everything that I'm hearing from Oklahoma City is that they don't want to move out of 2. The fact that they've got all these other picks, they're trying to move up from 12 to get another top 10 pick. I don't think you're going to see them move out of the 2 spot unless the package that they get offered is ridiculous. And if you're Sacramento, I wouldn't do that.
Does this put Oklahoma City oh my God, what are we doing now?
No, I think if you're Oklahoma City, again, you've got so many options here, and the fact that all 3 of these guys at the top, again, fit, areas of need that your team wants. They're similar types of players in the term that they're all stretch 4s, and 2 of the guys are fantastic defenders and rim protectors.
Picks in.
Here we go. We're about to find out. So I think if you're Oklahoma City, you're fine with just sitting back and seeing what happens here.
We don't have the soundboard set up, so I will try and do the sound myself. Da-ding, da-da-ding.
I heard they changed that sound to the State Farm jingle this year.
They didn't play any sound this time.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, nope. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun.
Here we go.
There we go.
There it is.
Paolo Banchero out of Duke. Holy cow, dude.
Right.
This guy probably had no idea he was going number 1.
I think he probably knew at some point here.
You think they clued him in?
Usually, yeah. Well, he probably didn't know until today at some point, but they usually will let these guys know ahead of time.
Steven's pissed. I hate Orlando. You think Josh is upset too?
Maybe. I don't know.
This guy's the most NBA ready, right?
He's got definitely one of the most NBA ready bodies, and his game is very suited to today's NBA as well. I still say Keegan Murray is the most NBA ready player in this draft, but Banchero is definitely ready to play as well.
Whew. You know, if you're the Kings right now, you're like, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? They're probably running around with their heads chopped off. Like, do we trade up to 2, 3?
Again, we talked about ripple effects. The Kings are not the only team that's running around saying, what do we do here?
Yeah.
Houston is all of a sudden, Houston, we have a problem sort of a thing. Like, this is definitely going to have some serious effects on what a lot of teams do.
Dabrab, I'm sorry, man, about your parlay. That's a bummer. Who do you guys think's going number 2? Let us know in the chat. I want to hear from you guys. Whoever gets it right is getting a shout out. Who is going number 2? Is it going to be Chet? Is it going to be Smith? Is it going to be Ivy? Is it going to be Kai Sotto?
I will put a lot of money on the fact that it is not Kai Sotto.
Tito says Ivy, huh? Ivy number 2.
That would really shake things up. If that's the pick here,
yeah,
that's going to have very, very huge earthquake-type effects on the rest of the draft.
I mean, if you think about it, Oklahoma City could be the biggest winner in this draft just based on this fact, right? Like, you and I were talking about when the rumors first came out that they were trading number 2 or they wanted to trade number 2 to Sacramento. We were like, why? Like, Oklahoma City doesn't have any bigs.
They don't.
They don't have any big guys. And they're at the top of this draft with like 3 amazing big guys.
I know. That's why I still think it makes total sense for them to stay here in this spot. And now they get to pick between not just one of, but the 2 top-rated prospects in this draft who are both big men.
You take Chet?
I would if I'm them. But I would be happy taking Smith as well. Like, I like that pick too. But if it were me, I'd take Holmgren here.
Dude, this suit is wild.
Yeah.
You'd think he was going to Sacramento.
I know, right?
I got to give a little shout-out to Tyrese Halliburton because the suit he was rocking during the draft was legit. He says, I never thought that this would have happened. Man. He's living everybody's dream right now. Everybody's dream. Ivan, the suit is pretty dope. I'm trying to decide.
The suit is
What
wild.
are those things in white?
I'm not sure, but I think they've got a bunch of diamonds.
And they got
He's
Coach
also
K
wearing
talking.
a chain for the 75th anniversary of the NBA. I noticed that. I'm pretty sure it says 75 on it. But
apparently Matt Barnes called it. Wow. Wow. What does this do for the Magic?
this gives the Magic one of the most skilled offensive players in the draft, who's also a big man, which again is a position that they needed to fill. They're pretty heavy at guard right now, and they like what they've got coming back at wing too. Yep. Jonathan Isaac is a question mark to what level he's going to be at coming back from that injury. But Franz Wagner was another guy who injuries kind of ended his season prematurely. But when he was playing earlier in the year, he was looking like potentially the steal of the draft.
Yeah.
So I think Jalen Suggs is another guy that had injury issues. If they get this whole group back together healthy, they're on a good path here. They've got a lot of really nice young talent.
They got a lot of talent and a lot of guys. Like the versatility on this team is crazy. I have to think that Mo Bamba's not returning now, right?
I would think that's likely. Yes.
Duke players that have gone number one overall. Elton Brand in 99, Kyrie Irving in 2011, Zion in 2019, and now Paolo Banchero in 2022. Jay Billis has the best player available right now is Shaedon Sharpe.
And I don't think there's a lot of people that necessarily disagree with that in terms of potential.
Yeah.
You can't argue with the guy's athletic ability and the fact that he's got a beautiful jump shot. Absolutely beautiful. Picture perfect. That translates to the NBA better than a lot of things do. He's young as well. So he's got the sky is the limit literally for his ceiling. It's way, way up there. The question is, how high is too high for you to be willing to risk taking him?
Yep, agreed. Well, it looks like the pick is in for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I see some people calling Ivy, some people calling Chet, Jabari Smith. I think it's going to be Chet Holmgren.
We shall see.
With the second pick, the Thunder select Chet Holmgren, number 2 overall. Holy cow. Wow.
Pretty easy decision here if from where I'm sitting, if you're Oklahoma City.
Gotta give a shout out to Sass here. Wow, I can't believe Smith is falling. Can't believe it.
Now it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Now it gets really interesting because I don't know what Houston is thinking here anymore.
What does it take to trade from pick 4 to pick 3? And I wish Christian Wood was still available because I'd be willing to trade pick 4 for 3 and Wood. But I guess you don't need Wood if you're taking Smith, right?
Probably not.
Interesting.
But I think Houston legitimately thought that they were taking Banchero all the way here.
Yeah. You think that's the reason they traded Christian Wood?
Perhaps. But at the same time, having Jabari Smith fall to you is not a bad, potentially not a bad replacement for Christian Wood. I mean, they have offensively similar styles. They're really great stretch 4 guys, great shooters, outside shooters. And I would say Jabari Smith right now is already a better defender than Christian Wood, especially on the perimeter.
Definitely. Yeah, is there anybody else that can go number 3, or is this Smith?
Well, again, Jaden Ivey is a huge wild card here. Pretty much every team, I think, from picks 2 to 10 or 12 have all been really, really high on him, and that includes Houston. But if you're Houston and they take Ivey, you're really sitting here saying, what is the plan here? Because they've got so many guards.
It's 2:18 in Hawaii right now. So we're 18 minutes into the draft, and we're already on pick number 3, Calvin. We're flying through this thing.
We are.
NBA is not wasting any time. They're not trying to pad their pockets with some of this revenue from TV advertisement. What's going on here?
Well, it's early. It's only pick 3. Give them time. They'll make up for it.
Yeah, Progressive G says Chet Holmgren is 190 pounds and 7 foot. Yikes. I've weighed more than that in my life. Not being fat either. I've weighed more than that, and I am nowhere close to 7 feet. Tito says if Jabari goes to Houston, we're trading the 4th pick. Ivan says Kai is the Philippine version of Chet. Yeah, Jabari is not happy, man. Oh, man. You hear you're going to be number 1 overall, and then pick 3, pick 4. Didn't we see that with Bol? Right? It was just like,
I don't know if anybody was
it
saying
wasn't
Bol
number
Bol was gonna be
one.
number 1
It wasn't
overall.
even number 1, but you remember he like showed up, had the nice suit on, and then it was like falling.
I mean, it happens to 1 or 2 guys in every draft in every sport, Aaron Rodgers for the Packers.
So, I mean, you look here at the draft, if it goes,
that's a bad record for the last 2 seasons.
If Houston doesn't take Smith, I'd say the Kings are probably going to take him, right?
We'll see.
And then you have a bunch of wings and guards here.
I don't think Sacramento was necessarily planning for that scenario. Maybe they were, but
I mean, if Smith goes number 3, then it's just like the mock draft.
Yeah.
In terms of Sacramento, right? Of what's available at 4. Because it's the same 3 guys, just taken in a different order.
Yeah.
The draft already happened, and Jabari is going number 5. Thanks, Charlie. Maybe you should hook up with Dab Rab and help him with his parlay. This is wild. Jay Billis says that if Oklahoma City had the number 1 pick, they would have taken Holmgren number 1 overall.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense. Oklahoma City, I think depending on what happens with that pick at 12, if they move up, they've got a chance to really accelerate their rebuild.
Progressive G said Jabari Smith Sr. was on the Kings. So I think they'll get the junior. And I know Paulo's mom played for the Monarchs.
She did. A
lot of like crossing things here, right?
Yes, that if you're basing your draft board off of just that stuff, it kind of seems to me like the Always Sunny episode where Charlie is like connecting all the dots, all crazy-eyed and stuff like that. But it's worth a look, I guess.
Sacramento's a basketball city. Everybody's playing basketball. And it's funny, you go to watch like Ice Cube's Big Three. I know you're not a big fan of the Big Three.
I am not.
But you go to watch the Big Three and it's all like, played on the Sacramento Kings. All the guys, I'm like, oh, I remember. He was on the Kings. He was on the Kings. He was on the Kings. Even Jim Jackson, the announcer, on the Kings.
Yes.
All right, looks like the pick is in.
Most of those guys played for a ton of teams, not just Sacramento.
Yeah. And that's generally how you end up on the Kings.
Exactly. Yeah, or in the Big Three.
Jabari Smith Sr. was Weber and Vlade's backup. I hope Jabari Smith Jr. is not a backup. Someone says we're getting Jaden Ivey. All right, Calvin, pick 3 is in. Who do you think the Rockets are taking?
Well, if I were them, I'd take Smith here. I just think that's the obvious pick. They need a big man, especially even more so now that they've dealt Christian Wood for practically nothing. This guy's a stretch 4, plays really good defense. To me, it's a no-brainer. But
if I were Steven, I'd be ecstatic. Here we go. 3rd pick. Jabari Smith, number 3, to the Houston Rockets. That's an absolute steal for the Rockets, in my mind.
In your mind.
In my mind.
I love Smith. I think he's going to be a very good player. So this is, I would say, for how the first 2 picks worked out, this is a great move for them.
I think this dude's going to be...
And there's his dad in a Kings jersey.
I think this dude's going to be the best player in the draft. Best player. Steven, you should be okay with it because Jabari Smith is going to be a great player. I'm just saying, my favorite player in the draft, by far, not with Houston. Yeah, Sass says the top 3 is predicted, but not in that order.
Not in that order, that's right.
Dab Rab knows about that. That's unfortunate.
All right. Are the Kings trading this pick?
Yeah, here we go. Kings are on the clock. It's official. What do you guys think is going to happen? Do the Kings trade back? Do they, what do they do here? Ivy at 4. Tito says...
I think they're going to take Ivy at 4 just because all of the momentum right now for picking up John Collins... To me, you try to kill 2 birds with, well, it's not one stone, but you're trying to solve multiple problems here, and that's the easiest route. You've got the best, what a lot of people believe to be the best available player here that could potentially fill that 2-guard spot, and then you look to deal for a guy that fills the power forward.
Sass says we're either trading or drafting Keegan.
That I would love. I would absolutely love that.
You like Keegan Murray over Jaden Ivey a lot.
Yeah, I do. Again, I'm not necessarily sitting here saying that Jaden Ivey won't be a better player ultimately, but it's about building this team out. To me, best available is it works for certain drafts. In this draft, I don't want to do that. And my number 1 reason why is whether or not you are on the train of De'Aaron Fox being the franchise player here. The Kings have clearly committed to that. And drafting Tyrese Haliburton, even though Ivey and Haliburton are not the same type of player, they bring different things to the table. I believe that adding guys like that hinder the progression and the ultimate ceiling that De'Aaron Fox reaches. Yep. So I'm much, much happier taking a forward or a wing here.
Best available. Now Jay Billis has got Shaedon Sharpe as the third best available. When he was
interesting.
The first best available at the beginning. I should text Jay Billis right now and tell him to fix his chart.
Barry does have his number, by the way.
Wow. Woj says the Kings
pick is in already.
Focused on Keegan Murray, which means no John Collins?
No, I don't think that rules out John Collins. I think you can play Keegan Murray at the 3 for sure.
If the Kings don't take Ivey here, I think it might be a missed opportunity because we heard of all these teams wanting to trade up to take Ivey, right? So for me,
it's only a missed opportunity if you really love or if you think that what other teams are offering for this pick is worth it, though.
Yeah.
We don't know necessarily what those conversations are like.
That's true. I just feel like if you want Keegan Murray, you could trade to 5 or 6, take Keegan Murray, pay him a little bit less, maybe pick up a second-round pick. If anything, it's better than nothing.
Maybe. I don't know.
Jay Billis says Keegan Murray was the best player on both ends of the floor in the country last year.
I would agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few people at his size that do what he does defensively. Here we
go.
He anchored the defense at center for them. He played the point on their full court press. Like there aren't many guys at 6'8" that can do all of that.
King's pick is in. Keegan Murray. Wow.
There you go.
Wow, that's
I'm happy.
huge. That's huge.
A lot of people are not going to be happy, but I'm happy.
Highest drafted Iowa player in the common era. That is crazy. Wow. Keegan Murray to the Sacramento Kings at pick number 4. Wow. What do you guys think about that? I want to hear from everybody here in the chat what you guys think about it. Dabrab says it's dumb. I might agree with you, Dabrab. Sass says knew it was Keegan because Vivek loves him. Vivek wanted Mark Jackson. Didn't happen at all. Wow. Calvin, I want to hear your thoughts here since you're the Keegan Murray fan from Royal Rebounds.
Well, look, I mean, I've already said why I like this guy. And the Kings need a versatile wing defender who can also score and stretch the floor, and that's exactly what this guy is. You can slot. The Kings need. We've talked so much about power forward and shooting guard, but they really need wing also. Like they need a versatile type of player who could potentially fit in to multiple different positions and guard multiple positions so that you could still go out and acquire somebody like John Collins that he could play next to.
Yeah.
You know, Jaden Ivey, as great of a talent as he might be, is not nearly as versatile a player as Keegan Murray. He can't guard positions 1 through 5, potentially in a small ball world in the NBA. Keegan Murray can. He was the leading scorer in the country last year. The guy can score on all 3 levels. He's a very efficient player. This dude, to me, again, just screams super productive, long NBA career with the potential to be better than that. And they need a really solid defender, too. So I love this pick for them.
And as Progressive G says, he has an identical twin brother. So if he's injured, maybe he'll still be available to play, right? We got Marvin Williams 2.0. Ivan says, if Keegan was on the top of the Kings draft board, then it works. Why pick a player that didn't want to be here, doesn't fit our needs, doesn't play defense? The Kings made the right decision.
Yeah, and I agree with Dab Rab here. Like, my ideal scenario was to trade back to get multiple assets or another pick, another player, a rotation player, and still have the chance to draft this guy. But it's tough when you're sitting there on the clock. If you really like this guy and you're worried about where he might fall, the question is, how far back can I trade and still have a legit shot at taking him, or how confident do I feel about that? So that's a difficult call to make, and it also, a lot of this again depends on what other moves are in the works.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. And just because they drafted him doesn't mean we might not hear in 10 or 15 minutes from now that he's been traded for somebody else. It is very, very possible. Charlie, tell us how you really feel. But I agree with a lot of the guys here in the chat. If he was the pick that you wanted, if he was the guy that you wanted, I think the Kings should have traded back to try and add an additional draft pick or some more talent. But Calvin's got a good point, right? Like, you can trade back as much as you want, but if the people aren't willing to trade up, it doesn't really work out, right?
Yeah, and these next, 3 to 4 or even 5 picks, there could be potentially a lot of movement. Indiana, Detroit, New York, those are all the teams that we have heard the most about as trying to move around in this draft. And even Portland at 7 is kind of a wild card. So you're gambling a lot by moving back, depending on how many spots you move back, because you don't know what is going to happen for the next 5 picks.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking at a wing, or maybe, like you said, maybe they do still go after John Collins and they play Keegan Murray.
I think they're definitely
at the 3.
Still trying to pick up John Collins.
It's like your options here at the 3 were like Keegan Murray, Shaedon Sharpe. Keegan Murray is a safer pick, right? Like, maybe Shaedon Sharpe's got the higher ceiling.
Yeah, definitely safer.
But much, much safer pick. For sure.
Well, we know Jaden Ivey is happy, right? Because he didn't go to Oklahoma City or Sacramento.
You think he ends up here in Detroit?
Well, it'll be interesting to see, because I have also heard that Benedict Mathurin had a phenomenal workout for the Pistons, and they're really, really high on him. So they could go either way here.
A fire alert from Progressive G. Malika Andrews is fire.
Yeah, ask Jordan Poole what he thinks of Malika Andrews.
Jeff the lefty is disappointed. I feel you, man. I'm a little disappointed as well. However, you look at it, the Kings needed a 4. Keegan Murray can play the 4. I think there are going to be more moves in the works, but
this also makes trading Harrison Barnes much more.
It does.
Works much more easily now, right? Because you've got somebody who can immediately fill that hole.
Yep. And we could still see them trade up and take a guy like Shaedon Sharpe. But what I'm saying is, they needed a 4. They got a guy that can play the 4, pretty high in the draft. He's under contract for 4 years, or will be. Maybe you already have your 2. Maybe you think that DiVincenzo is the 2, or Terrence Davis is the 2, or maybe you're going to play Davion Mitchell as the 2. So this filled a need. It did.
Yeah.
It's not like it was just they drafted another point guard when we already have a bunch of point guards. So, interesting. All right, picks in here for the Pistons. The Pistons take Jaden Ivey.
No surprise here. And he's got to be ecstatic.
Oh, yeah. Look at that smile on his face. Nice beat, says the Kings got no one bright in their organization. I feel your anger, but yeah, it's been a bad last 15 years. I definitely feel you, but I think the Kings are on the way up, man. I really do. Like I said, I'm disappointed as well, because there are some guys that I liked. I like Jabari Smith. I wanted...
he wasn't available.
I mean, I wanted them to trade up.
Okay.
Or I wanted them to trade down, or take Ivy in what's his name? John Collins. But like I said, you got to look at the positives. They got a position of need.
Yeah.
At 4, Calvin's favorite player. Calvin knows what he's talking about.
Definitely one of them.
So I wouldn't be extremely angry. Grant Napier said,
I'm excited for the summer league this year when
tunnel.
everybody gets to see Keegan Murray play in a Kings jersey because I think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
John said, how are you going to say it's a 4-man draft and take number 6? Yeah, I mean, right now could be the situation where we see Jaden Ivey turn into a superstar in a year or 2 or 3 years from now, and Kings fans go through all the emotions again of we passed on this guy for need, right? But like I said, I'm okay with Keegan Murray here. I am. Sass says Ivy crying happy tears because he wasn't drafted by the Kings. Sass, who do you think is going to be in the playoffs next? You think it's going to be the Kings or the Pistons? Who do you think is going to be there first? Because I got my money on the Kings.
We'll have to see what Detroit does the rest of the offseason. If they somehow land DeAndre Ayton,
yeah,
they might be in the playoffs before the Kings.
This is what happens when there is a playoff mandate. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Did you know that Jaden Ivey's mom coached Ja Morant? That's wild.
Yeah, I did know that, actually.
Kings just need to stop playing Russian roulette with the coaching staff and show some stability. 100% Lone Wolf. I agree with you. That's exactly what they need to do. And I think that they are in that direction right now. You know, they got a general manager who's been here for a couple years. And don't forget, guys, this guy's hit on his last 2 draft picks, was able to flip one of them for a 2-time All-Star and Domantas Sabonis. So maybe that'll help you look at this Keegan Murray pick a little bit differently. And he got his own coach that he finally wanted this year in Mike Brown. I think we're going to get some stability here from Sacramento in the next few years. I really do. But yeah, as Nice Beat says, got to wait for the start of the season to really figure out what's going on here. King Charles says, didn't need another guard, though. He wouldn't be able to justify picking up Donovan in the first round. You mean Davion? Ivan says, definitely think the Kings made the right pick. I think Calvin agrees.
I do.
Matthew, we did not get Chet. Chet actually fell to pick number 2. Jabari Smith fell to 3, and the Kings take Keegan Murray, pick number 4. Progressive G says, I don't know, man. Jaden Ivey might have been the slam dunk pick. He's like Ja Morant 2.0.
Yeah, but does Ja Morant and De'Aaron Fox work together on the same team?
Yeah. That's a good point. You know, when I was watching film early on, I like Jaden Ivey, but my concern was this dude needs the ball in his hands. He reminds me a little bit about De'Aaron Fox. Like, when he has the ball in the open court, like, he dominates the ball, takes it to the basket. I don't know if that works with De'Aaron Fox. So I think you're right. I think Keegan Murray might have been the right pick here. It's just what they're able to do with the rest. What's up, Brandon? Good to see you here. Not happy. Brandon is not happy. Bad pick. Pacers select Benedict Mathurin.
Love this pick.
Wow. Number 6, huh? That means Sharpe's falling.
And I think that's probably what most people expected.
Where do you think he'll go?
I could see him going anywhere in the next 4 picks.
Ivan says
where Dyson Daniels ends up is going to be really interesting here, because I think New Orleans would really love for him to fall to them at 8.
Yeah.
But if he's not there, 8 or 9 seems like a pretty legit spot for Sharpe to go, whether it's New Orleans or San Antonio.
Keegan Murray is a bigger version of Tyrese Halliburton. High IQ players. Pacers wanted Keegan. And then
I'm not sure I like that comparison.
And then Brendan says Ivy is a good off-ball player. He would have worked with Fox. Keegan Murray is a low-ceiling player.
I disagree with that. But
what are your thoughts on Keegan Murray's ceiling?
The guy could be an all-star. Like, I really believe that. He's got every tool you need to succeed in today's NBA. He's got size. He can play. Most teams are moving towards a smaller team. He's able to guard positions 1 through 5. If you play a small ball lineup, he can do. He really doesn't have a ton of weaknesses. Maybe his absolute best strength isn't as high as a lot of these other guys. Athleticism is probably one of the first things that people point to. He's not anywhere near the athlete that Shaedon Sharpe is or Jaden Ivey is, but the dude has proven against legit competition. I mean, the Big Ten is not a joke of a conference. Jaden Ivey also plays in that conference. He was the leading scorer for his team, for the nation. He had a huge Big Ten tournament. But again, defense is where I look at for Sacramento specifically. And I'm not saying that Jaden Ivey is a bad defender, but Jaden Ivey is not the versatile defender that Keegan Murray is. And again, in today's NBA, the ability to switch screens, guard multiple positions, Keegan Murray can definitely do that. So I'm sticking behind Murray being a very, very good NBA player.
Yeah. And I think the key here for Calvin is this is a safer pick for the Kings. I think he's like safer in terms of like maybe the ceiling's not super high in terms of like he's not going to be a superstar, but we know what he is going to be and he's ready to contribute day one. And that's what the Kings need, right?
Yes. I don't know if safer is really what I'm thinking here, but I'm thinking about how to fill out and build this team so that it's a real team that has the ability to compete. Taking who you think is the best player doesn't necessarily mean that your team is going to be built for winning in the league. They made great moves at the deadline, getting Sabonis to pair with Fox. Now it's about building out the rest of the roster. And for me, Murray is one of the guys that fits in best here.
Yeah, King Charles says there's a lot of talented players, but not a lot of high IQ players and the defensive ability. Progressive G agrees. And Sass says it's a boring pick, which I get. I think that Progressive G has a pretty good comment here that drafting Jaden Ivey and having De'Aaron Fox would kind of be similar to the Monte Ellis and Steph Curry fit. It worked out with the Warriors, but it didn't really work out until they chose one of the two guys, right? And I agree with that. I think that would have been a very similar situation. And we saw that with Fox and Halliburton.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, like, you look at the rest of this Kings roster, they just have so many guards still, even after getting rid of Tyrese Halliburton. So if you want Dante DiVincenzo to be a real part of this team, if you want Terrence Davis to be a real part of this team, if you want Davion Mitchell to continue to grow and get more minutes on this team, drafting Jaden Ivey directly negatively impacts all of that. All of that. Even if you think Jaden Ivey is a better player than all three of those guys, it negatively impacts that, and that has a negative impact on how you build your team towards winning.
I've been drinking too much beer. I got to go take a bathroom break, so I will be right back. But in the meantime, Progressive G's got a good question here. How does Keegan Murray affect John Collins and Harrison Barnes? I'll let you take that, and I will be right back.
Well, I think this leaves the door wide open still for trading Harrison Barnes for John Collins because, again, Keegan Murray is a very versatile player. You can play him at the 3. And if you're able to deal Harrison Barnes for John Collins, then that fills the 4 spot. Like it still makes this deal totally doable for me. Big Ten only had 5 All-Stars in the last 50 years. That might be right, but I would like to see the statistics for the other conferences as well. Okay, Brendan, so if you like Fox, Ivy, and Davion, you're just going to get rid of Terrence Davis and DiVincenzo altogether? Of course, King Charles. That's what the draft is all about. Want versus need. Best available versus best fit. And I forget who said it earlier in this chat, but best available is all an opinion, right? There's not one right answer for who the best available player is. Everybody has potentially a different answer to that question.
Shaedon Sharpe picked by the Blazers. Pick number 7. Crazy. I'm just going to throw this out there that originally when I thought that the Pistons picked up pick number 7 when they traded Jerami Grant, I thought the Kings should have traded back and picked up 5 and 7. Maybe they would have had to give up 4 and potentially a protected first for next year. But I think they could have gotten Keegan Murray and Shaedon Sharpe and potentially traded for John Collins.
Yeah. I mean, it's all theory at this point, right? We'll never know if that was even a possibility. But I like this pick for Portland, too. I really do. This guy, I think, has I have a lot of similar vibes between him and Brandon Roy.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't end the same way that Brandon Roy's career ended, but I like this pick for Portland.
So we saw Paolo go number 1. We saw Chet go number 2. Jabari go number 3. Then we had Keegan go number 4. We saw Jaden go number 5. Then Benedict Mathurin shot up the boards. Shaedon Sharpe as well. Calvin, I want to hear from you. Who won the draft so far?
I'm going to say Oklahoma City, just because, again, I think that Chet Holmgren right now is the best player in this class. I would have taken him number 1 overall if I was Orlando, so to get him at number 2, knowing that I still have a ton of other picks to come, I'm liking where I'm sitting right now. What I'm really surprised at is that we haven't seen a trade yet.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. What's up, Alex? Good to see you. What's up, boys? Just got on. Going to do a reaction. Do you guys like the pick? Definitely could have traded back, but I'm just trusting the process. Calvin loves the pick.
I do.
Keegan Murray was his guy.
I do.
But I agree with you. I think the Kings could have traded back.
I think,
if they were going to get
that's
him.
the only thing that I think you can really debate right now is whether the Kings could have traded back and still ended up with Murray, which is very possible, but it's not a for sure thing. Like anybody that says, oh, we could 100% for sure have traded back to 6 and still got him, you just can't make that assumption. So.
Yeah. And the team in 6 has got to be willing to trade that and give you some value as well. Charlie says this team is high-level ass cheeks. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think that's a bad thing.
High level.
It also might be the most underwhelming hot take that we've heard in a long time. They've missed the playoffs for 16 straight years, regardless of what they did in the draft. I think most people assume that Sacramento is not a good team. So.
I think he's talking about Portland.
Oh.
And then I see
I always assume it's Sacramento.
And then Sat says, I don't know about how Sharpe fits Dame's timeline. Yeah. I mean, I'm in the same boat, right? As it's like Sharpe could be ready to perform day 1 and could be a great player, or it could take the guy 4 years to become a good player, or he could just be not a good player at all. That is the question mark around that guy. And honestly, was Portland in a position here to gamble on a guy like this? I don't know. I don't know at all. Thanks, Dap. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful evening. Brandon says, in a 4-player draft, they picked the 5th player. Yeah, but that's who they like, man. That's who they like. You gotta trust the professionals sometimes. Like I said, they've done well in the last 2 drafts. So at what point are you like, I don't know better than them. I trust them to do their thing. And it looks like the Pelicans pick is in here.
If this isn't Dyson Daniels, I'll be very surprised.
Ivan says, why so much hate for Keegan? Ivan, I don't think it has anything to do with Keegan personally. I think it's more of like the shiny pick was not Keegan Murray, and everyone wanted the shiny pick. And many people feel that the Kings could have traded down and got additional assets to get Keegan Murray. I'm in that boat. But as Calvin mentioned, it doesn't mean that it's true or it could have happened. Like, takes two to tango. It really does. Charlie said, oh, Mr. Steal Your Ball? Oh, they must be talking about my guy, Jose GTA. Here we go. Pick is in for the Pelicans. Who are they going to pick?
It's got to be Daniels. Got to be.
Dyson Daniels. There you go. Calvin got it. He's killing it right now. Charlie with the very descriptive comment there. Thanks for the quick summary. LOL, hope all is well with you guys. I'm pretty high on the Collins trade. If we can get him, we shall see. Take care. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate you. Good luck on your recap. Make sure you guys go and check that out. Still waiting to hear on some John Collins news because we thought that this was going to be during the draft, which we got a lot of time still, but
we do have a lot of time. I don't think we're going to hear about this deal being done today, though.
Really? How would you feel if the Kings were able to pick up John Collins and pick number 16 in the same deal?
I'd feel great about it. I don't know what the likelihood of that is. It seems to me that if Atlanta is going to trade both their pick and John Collins, the whole goal was for them to move up in the draft.
Yeah.
And now they're probably not going to. And if they do, they're not going to move up very far. So,
but if you get Harrison Barnes and next year's first-round pick from the Kings, that's kind of like moving up in the draft.
Kind of, but does that make sense from Atlanta's standpoint? Keep in mind they've still got guys like Bogdanovich, Gallinari. They've got a logjam at wing. Mm-hmm. They've got Jalen Johnson on this team. So just adding Harrison Barnes doesn't, like, if I'm Atlanta, doesn't really do anything for me.
That signals Gallinari's out, in my mind.
Yeah.
And then who do they play at the 4? Is it going to be Harrison Barnes?
Right.
Maybe. John says, since it's the Kings, should we trust any of them? I mean, it has the name Kings, right? But the management's all different. The coaching staff is different. The players are changing. Like I said, they hit on the last 2 drafts. There's got to be a point where you put some trust in them, right?
One team I do trust right now is the New Orleans Pelicans. They're in such a good position going into next year, I think.
Yeah.
Their roster is stacked right now.
Yeah. And they got a famous GM that assembled a championship team in Cleveland.
Yeah.
So those guys are very, very important. And you're right. They are a good-looking team.
They're really good.
Imagine if Zion can play next year.
Yeah.
Imagine if he can play.
Well, there's no reason to think he won't. He's been cleared.
Very true. All right, well, next up we have the Spurs. They're on the clock. We're going to remain with you guys here on Royal Rebounds for the next 2 picks, and then we're switching over to our other channel, Basketball at the Bar. I hope you guys are all able to join us for that. We will cover the rest of the draft during that. That's a kind of laid-back channel. We have fun. We drink beers. We talk about basketball. So hopefully you guys will join us for that. I am going to post a link for that video here in the chat so you guys can hit the notification bell and get ready for when we are on there, because we will be covering the rest of the NBA draft. And I will post that right now. Boom. For you guys. So, Calvin, who do you think the Spurs take here? We talked about them. We did our offseason rebuild on the Spurs. And honestly, they can take a chance on Shaedon Sharpe in my mind. And they might be the best landing spot for him.
Unfortunately, he's already been picked. But
has he been picked?
Portland.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
But you are absolutely right in that assessment. I think that would have been a team that could take a swing on him. I think they're going to take Durant, the big man out of Memphis here. They need to improve their front court.
Yes.
This guy is young, I think he's still 18 years old. Maybe he's 19, but I think he's still 18 years old. We talked about NBA-ready bodies. This guy definitely has one of the top NBA-ready bodies, in my opinion. A little bit of a developmental project, but that's kind of where I think San Antonio is at right now. They've got a bunch of guys, Devin Vassell, Joshua Primo, who they drafted in the first round last year, who they're okay with maybe taking a little bit of time to come along, play in the G League, stuff like that. The Spurs have been one of those organizations that's shown they can develop talent pretty well over the years. So this, to me, is got to be the pick. There aren't a ton of really, really high upside, productive big man left in this draft. Durant would be one of them.
John says, is there anything we can move to jump back in and get Johnny Davis?
Ooh, I don't know. That's going to be tough, because Washington has been linked to him so heavily throughout this draft process. And again, as we talked about at the beginning of the show with Bradley Beal opting out of his deal, how confident are you if you're the Wizards that he re-signs? If you're really confident, maybe you're okay with trading that pick and potentially losing out on Johnny Davis. But if you're not confident, I don't see many packages the Kings could offer that would entice Washington to move away from that.
You think Holmes is worth the 13th or the 15th pick to Charlotte?
Yeah, I think that's a real possibility because, again, what has Charlotte looked to do ever since they've gotten LaMelo Ball? Pair him with a center that's a rim roller, a lob threat, something like that. We saw how well Tyrese Halliburton and Richaun Holmes work together in the pick and roll. I think that's a real possibility if you're both teams.
Yeah, I can see that. Shout out to John here for bringing that up. John wants book night from Charlotte. Don't know if that'll happen, but maybe we can get one of those picks, 13 or 15. Probably 15 would be my guess. Gothen, you're out of here. Thank you so much for joining us. Excited about our pick. He's ready to contribute at a high level. Day one. Interesting they drafted for fit. Later, guys. Good to see you, Gothen. Stoked you moved back to Sacramento. Hopefully Calvin and I will get to see you this time.
Yeah, I hope
when
so.
we're there. I'm going to try and make it back to Sacramento here in the next couple months for sure. Priest says, guys, I believe McNair should be fired for pulling an Amber Heard and shit in the bed.
Holy cow. Those are strong words, my friend.
Oh, man. Could you imagine being a juror on that? Where it's like you had to take time off of work. I don't even know how much jurors get paid because I have not gone to jury duty.
Neither have I.
I feel like I haven't gotten a jury duty notice in a long time. Maybe they don't even know where I live now.
Hopefully they don't know where either of us.
But
that'd be great.
But yeah, like imagine being a juror on that where it's like, okay, so wait, what happened?
I think if I was a juror for that trial, I would have literally laughed out loud in court like 17 times.
Take me off. Take me off. I'm not biased in this situation. Gothen's trying to work out being free for opening night. Do it and let us know. Calvin and I will come join you for opening night.
We're seriously hoping that we will be there as well. So.
Let's do it. Spurs select Jeremy Sohan.
Oh, wow. Interesting. But again, another one of those, these like mid-first round big men that has a lot of potential. So I think this pick makes sense from a need standpoint.
I mean,
and certainly a lot of potential there too.
Out of any of these top 9 teams here in the draft, the Spurs are the last team that I'm questioning about who they drafted, right? Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, probably, if you don't include the Warriors here, because they've drafted extremely well. And, I mean, you could say the Pelicans drafted pretty well, too. But the Spurs, one of the best drafting teams in the NBA. So, I think this is their guy. And another guy wearing a purple suit, Calvin.
Yeah. I think some people are going to consider this a reach here at number 9, but, again, it's I think it fits a lot of areas of need here for the Spurs.
Tito, I think we are going to see some trades tonight. I think we are. Like I said, I'm sticking by my prediction. Kings are going to have 4 new faces for the team today. we've seen one. How are you going to add the rest of these guys?
Well, we know they have one other pick right now.
Dude, Cal, they're playing one of our songs here during the draft.
Songs.
It's good. It's good.
I'm not listening to it right now. So.
I know, but I'm surprised. They're playing one of our songs here, Calvin. Not the one with our names in it, but one of our free songs that we downloaded on the internet. The Spurs haven't made a good draft pick since 2011. I don't know if I agree with that, Charlie. Let's look up here.
Definitely depends on what you qualify as a good draft pick. Good draft pick.
Let's take a look here at the last 11 years.
Since 2011? Wait, did they not draft DeJounte Murray?
They drafted Joshua Primo last year, and they drafted Devin Vassell a year before that.
Jury's still out on him. I'll give you that.
Johnson the year before that.
A lot of people like him.
Lonnie Walker. They did draft Chimezie Metu. Then we got Derek White, DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, I mean, Murray's an all-star. How can you say that wasn't a good pick?
Kyle Anderson. And then you're right, there's not a lot of other guys there. You got Corey Joseph in 2011 and George Hill, who I think was traded for... Wasn't George Hill traded for Kawhi Leonard?
Maybe. I don't remember, actually. But
anyways, I think the Spurs know what they're doing. Waterman says the Kings are a joke. Waterman, can you expand? I'd like to hear a little bit more from you. Why do you think the Kings are a joke? Because I mean, it's not like they went and took a guy that wasn't projected to go in the top 10 at pick 4. Like Keegan Murray, I think, was projected at 6, right? Or 5?
Look, part of the problem with making a pick like this is the Kings' track record. Your previous history leads you to believe that the team doesn't make right decisions. And I'm not arguing against that. I mean, if you haven't made the playoffs in 16 years, no other team has ever done that. So it all makes sense from what have you done lately? They've made a lot of bad decisions. That's very apparent. But again, if you don't believe in Monty McNair, that's one thing. I think most Kings fans like what he's done since he's been there. So, you kind of have to give this a little bit of time to see if it pans out in the right way for Sacramento.
Yeah, in Monty we trust. Sass says, we need John Collins for Barnes to make me feel better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, even if you drafted Jaden Ivey, so many people would have been really, really happy, right? But the Kings have so many needs. One person is not going to fix anything or fix everything for them in this draft. That player doesn't exist. They have to go out and add more pieces, more talent in order for this rebuild or this process to work out. It's not going to be a one-shop or a one-shop stop here.
Yeah, one-stop shop.
One-stop shop. Thank you.
Yeah. Priest, I feel you, man. There are some feelings in me that feels that McNair squandered the draft. I'm not going to lie. I do have some feelings towards that, but the majority of me doesn't feel that way. The majority of me feels that I need to trust them. Like Ivan says, Monty knows best. His last few decisions have been great. He's drafted a ton of good players with both the Sacramento Kings and the Houston Rockets. So I do trust him. And like Calvin said, you got to be patient, right? Like he's literally been on the team for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's not even official yet because he hasn't even been signed. But there's got to be something that Keegan Murray really liked. That Monty really liked about Keegan Murray. And there's a reason he's on this team.
There's definitely more than one thing he really liked.
Will Keegan be able to play the 2, or does he lack the foot speed?
I wouldn't play him at the 2. 3 or 4 or even a 5 in small ball lineups. I don't want him to consistently play the 5, but 3 or 4 is perfect for me.
I think I'd be most comfortable with him playing the 4, but I am open to him playing the 3 as well. But it all depends on, like I said, what you end up doing. If you get John Collins or one of these other guys, and, what would you think about a lineup of De'Aaron Fox, I guess we could say DiVincenzo, Mitchell, or Davis, Keegan Murray, John Collins, Domantas Sabonis. Is that a winner? And before you answer this, the Wizards pick is in, so hold on one second. Who's it going to be, Johnny Davis?
I think it's got to be Davis, yeah.
The Wizards select Johnny Davis. All right, so back to my question. What do you think about that starting lineup?
I like that team. I have to think that team's going to be better than any of the Kings teams in the last, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I think a lot of Kings fans are disappointed right now because there's been all this talk over the past few weeks that the Kings are trading up. The Kings are trading for this all-star. They're trading for multiple picks. They're going to take this guy. They're going to take this guy. And it has been a little underwhelming at this point, right? They got one guy, Keegan Murray. They took him at 4. He was projected 5, 6, 7, whatever mock draft you're looking at, because they're all different. So I can understand why some Kings fans would be a little disappointed here.
Yeah, and again,
but it's only one move.
You got to keep in mind that there's so much about what happens behind the scenes that you don't know. I mean, people are going to say, oh, Monty messed it up because he didn't trade up, or Monty messed it up because he didn't trade down. That doesn't mean that he didn't try. That doesn't mean he didn't call Oklahoma City and say, what does it take for me to get to 2 right now? I'll give you, future picks. I'll give you Rashawn Holmes, Harrison Barnes, all these people. They may have just turned back to him and said, no, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's not that. I think it's very foolish to assume that Monty McNair was like, my only option here is to draft Keegan Murray at 4. I'm not talking to anybody else. I'm not seeing what's available out there. You can argue whether or not it was the right move, but you can't assume that was the only option here.
The Knicks are on the clock. This is the pick that we heard was the most likely to be traded, right? They were the most active. Who do you like at 11? And I think this is our last pick we're covering here on Royal Rebounds before we switch over.
I think this is going to be A.J. Griffin for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Progressive G says, NBADraft.net says that Keegan Murray is comparable to Otto Porter and Michael Porter. You think that's accurate?
Michael Porter Jr.?
Yeah, both juniors. Both juniors, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
I think Keegan Murray will be better than Otto Porter.
Sass says, and Marvin Williams.
And Marvin Williams, yeah.
Keegan Murray's got to be better than Marvin Williams. And no hate on Marvin Williams. Marvin Williams was a productive NBA player. He was on that Hawks team that, 4 or 5 of the guys were all-stars.
Yeah.
He's a good player, but Kings need somebody that's a little bit better than a Marvin Williams type. Monty,
I forgot Jason Kidd was on that next
in
team.
the last 2 drafts, picked best available.
And where did it get them?
Yeah.
Where did it get them? They got them Sabonis. I'll give you that. That's good. And it got him Davion Mitchell, which is also a good piece. But in terms of wins, it didn't make them any better.
Yeah. It's a tricky situation when you talk about best available versus drafting for fit and for need. Best available is a good strategy when you need everything, but then there comes to a point where it's like, okay, we have to start drafting for need. We can't just draft a point guard every single year and see what happens. What was that the Steph Curry draft where Minnesota had 3 first-round picks and they took all point guards? And none of them were named Steph Curry?
None of them were Curry.
It was Johnny Davis? Johnny Flynn. Ricky Rubio?
No, Rubio went to...
That was Minnesota.
Somewhere else. No, he wasn't drafted by Minnesota. He was the following pick, I think.
I had to look this up. What was this, 2010?
2007 is Steph Curry's draft.
I got to look this up real quick. 2009.
2009.
2009 NBA draft. Here we go. First pick, Blake Griffin. Then we had Hashim Thabit, James
Oh, wow, I forgot
Harden,
about that guy.
Tyreek Evans, Ricky Rubio, number 5 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And they took Johnny Flynn with number 6.
They had 5 and 6?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they had another one. They had 18. They took Ty Lawson.
Oh, yeah, Ty Lawson. I remember.
Crazy, huh? All right, pick is in for the Knicks. Here we go. 11th pick. Ousmane Dang. Wow. From France.
From France.
Good pick?
Yeah, another super versatile player. Again, it could be a great pick if this guy pans out, but you have to take into account where the state of the rest of the team is here. I mean, R.J. Barrett is obviously, your legit number one option, I would say, for the Knicks right now at this point, excluding Julius Randle, who I don't know what is going to happen with him in his future.
Yeah.
This gives you definitely more wing depth, but this is also a team that just traded for Cam Reddish. You've got R.J. Barrett. You're a little top-heavy at guard anyway, so it's an interesting pick. Certainly a high-risk, high-reward thing, I would say, but
yeah.
This is another player that, again, it fits the modern NBA. Very versatile wing.
I think we got a trade here to announce. They're bringing Woj on the screen. The 11th pick is headed to Oklahoma City for the Knicks are getting back multiple first-round picks.
Wow.
So I guess Oklahoma City's starting to use all their picks here.
Okay.
Now they're on the clock again. This will be their third guy drafted in this draft now.
Well, is this pick going to be sent to the Knicks? No, it's not.
They got multiple future first-round picks.
Future. All right. Interesting.
Which means maybe the Knicks need salary cap space.
Yeah. Kyrie Irving's name is still out there.
Yeah. Interesting. So Jang is not going to the Knicks. He's being sent to the Oklahoma City Thunder for multiple first-round picks in the future. Interesting.
I would have expected Oklahoma City to use multiple first-round picks on a more highly rated player than this, but who knows?
Or a higher pick than 11.
Or a higher pick than 11, yeah.
Like, if I could think of any team that could take the chance on a guy like Shaedon Sharpe, it would have been Oklahoma City, right?
Right.
What's up, Jay Drew? Good to see you. Jay Drew says the needle didn't move much today. They have a long way to go and a short time to get there. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm a little underwhelmed so far by what the Kings have done today, but it's not over. We're only at pick number 12, and we still have a long way to go this offseason as well. There's not just the draft. There's free agency. There's trades. There's a lot of other options for the Kings to improve this roster. But honestly, outside of all the needs for this Kings team, one of the biggest needs is they just need to be healthy, right? Like, they finished the season without De'Aaron Fox, without Domantas Sabonis. We saw injuries throughout the regular season to multiple guys on the team, star players, starters, stuff like that. So if you were to bring this team back exactly the same as last year, or the way they ended the year, healthy, and having a full year under their belt with the training camp, with Sabonis and all that, they are going to be a better team. But you're right, adding a guy like Keegan Murray does not move the needle enough for us at this point. But it's early on. Summer just started. We got a lot of time here to improve this roster. That's for sure. Wow, Calvin. We talked about how the Thunder were our biggest question mark in this draft, right? Because we didn't know what they were going to do. And they've had all these picks. We thought that they were going to trade pick 2. I think I said if they traded pick 2, that was stupid.
Yeah.
They didn't trade it. Now they trade for pick 11, and they have pick 12. They are speeding up the rebuild here, as you would say.
They're trying to. But they're in, one of the best positions of any team in the league to do that, right, with how many picks they have.
Very true. Very true. All right, so let's do one more pick here. Let's do pick 12 with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then we are going to be transitioning over to Royal Rebounds. I'm posting the link here in the chat for everybody that's watching. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. And after pick 12 is over, we will be transferring over to our other channel, Basketball at the Bar, where we cover the entire NBA. And hey, I still talk about the Kings. So if you guys love the Kings, if you love basketball, if you want to hang out with us for a couple more hours, make sure you click on that link and get ready, because as soon as this pick is over, we're going to transfer over there. Kyle, who are they taking here, pick 12?
I'm really not sure anymore. I mean, like you just said, Oklahoma City was the one team that, outside of sticking it to and taking Holmgren or Smith, I really, it's hard to imagine or to predict what this team is going to do. So they've got a ton of different areas of need. So if you're looking at it from that standpoint, you could go a lot of different options. AJ Griffin is still there. They just took a wing, but that guy who has the defensive potential and the outside shooting, teams definitely salivate over that kind of stuff. They could go with a big man here. Durant is still available. So there's a lot of different options that they could use here.
What if they take a guy like a Jalen Durant or a Mark Williams here?
Yeah.
To solidify their front court. A guy like, could you imagine Mark Williams and Chet Holmgren being on the same team? Blocking inside?
Yeah, that would be, or what if they went super crazy and drafted Walker Kessler?
Yeah.
Here.
Walker Kessler Jr. That'd be wild. That'd be wild. It's like a block party, right?
Yeah.
Like as Nerlens Noel said.
Block
it's going to be a block party. I think Oklahoma City is making some big moves here. They might be my, like you said, they might be my favorite right now for winning the draft so far.
Well, it's easy to say when you've got pick 2 and you're able to select the guy that most people believe is the number 1 prospect in the draft, right? Like that automatically puts you ahead of everybody else. And when you have, well, I guess they're now down to 3, or no, they traded back for 12, so that gives them 4 first-round picks.
Pick is in here.
Again, that's an advantage they have over every other team.
Jalen Williams. Interesting.
Wow.
Small forward out of Santa Clara. Interesting. What does he do for them? I want to get your take on Jalen Williams real quick, and then we're gonna end the show here, Cal.
This is a very interesting pick. Not to be confused, of course, with Jalen Williams, the center out of Arkansas, who a lot of people have gone in the second round. But this is just an example, I think, of a team that is trying to amass as many assets, turn their draft assets into player assets as much as possible. Again, one of the teams I think that has the most areas of need to fill, for the Oklahoma City Thunder, amongst other teams in the draft. So you really have endless sort of options here. I think this is an example of a team just trying to stack the roster with as many talented, versatile players as possible, see which pieces fit together, and then you move on from the guys that you decide don't make the cut, essentially.
Yep, I agree. All right, everyone, want to say thank you so much for joining us today on this podcast. We greatly appreciate your time. We are going to be transitioning here over to our other podcast, Basketball at the Bar, which is also on YouTube. I just placed the link here in the chat. All you got to do is click on that link, hang out for 5 minutes or so, and Calvin and I will be there shortly to go through the rest of the draft. We're also going to be live tomorrow to discuss the aftermath of the draft, any trades, what we liked from the Kings, the winner of the draft, all that wonderful stuff. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And as always, Calvin, any last words?
Go Kings.
Go Kings.